Can you go to Genesis chapter 3 and um, read from verse 1. Genesis chapter 3.
Now the serpent was.
Oh, wait till everybody gets it. Okay, go on.
Now the serpent was very more cunning.
Can you see that, John?
Yes.
Or is the print too small?
No,
It's big, yeah? Okay. Okay, and now go on.
Now the serpent was more cunning than any beast of the field which the Lord God had made.
Yes.
And he said to the woman, Has God indeed said, You shall not eat of every tree of the garden?
Yes.
And the woman said to the serpent, We may eat the fruit of the garden. We may eat the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God has said, You shall not eat it, nor shall you touch it, lest you die. Then the serpent said to the woman, You shall not surely die.
Yes.
For God knows that in the day you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. So when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree desirable to make one wise, she took of its fruit and ate. She also gave to her husband with her, and he ate.
Yes.
And the eyes
That's fine, that's fine. Father, you help us understand and you lead us, Lord, so that we are not deceived by the lie of the devil and we don't disobey your word, and that we follow you in the simplicity that you laid for us. In Jesus' name. Amen. Verse 5 says, For God knows in the day that you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. What is that? Your eyes will be opened. Yes, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. Now, this is a serpent talking to Eve. Was her eyes closed? But she must have believed that for it to be a deception. Do you understand? So that, then we know the story. Because she ate of that fruit which God forbade her to eat, and she gave it off to the man, and the man also ate, and then we call that the fall of man or the original sin, whatever you want to call it. But I want to highlight something. In verse 5 started something that is still going on. That is the age of deception, which, if you are being deceived, you will call the age of enlightenment. Do you understand? This age of enlightenment started with a deception. We understand that there was a carbon-based being, for example, that is in the natural. We are all carbon-based, yes? And there's a bit spirit-based. God is spirit-based. Do you understand? So, yeah. We're on Genesis chapter 3. Maybe we'll put a blue chair in the hall, just in the stairway, because I was originally planning to use that, but it doesn't work for me. Yeah, just put it in the hallway. Yeah, just by the stair, just behind the door. We'll take care of it later. We're on Genesis 3. And we just read from verse 1 to verse 6, and I just started explaining that. Okay. So, verse 5 says, "For God knows that in the day that you eat of it, your eyes will be opened." And now we know that Eve's eyes were not closed, but that she was deceived. But that started an age which the deceived call enlightenment. Guess what? Her eyes were indeed open and they found themselves naked. And what was the question God had? Who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten of that tree? Of course, God knew of all these things, but God wanted people or them to know their mistakes. Do you understand? Yes. So, Abraham, watch the video. I don't want to repeat myself. Yeah. So you watch the video. Yeah. So anyway, I just started on Genesis chapter 3. I read from verse 1 to verse 6. Yeah. I had verse and I'm on verse 5. Yeah, don't interrupt the flow. That's important because let's just pray one more time. Hallelujah. Father God, I pray, Lord, let this be taught in this fullness. In Jesus' name. Hallelujah. So, those who are being deceived were always enticed or teased with enlightenment. See, here is knowing good and evil, but she saw what the tree was good for food, it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree desirable to make one wise. Do you understand? So, every secret society that we know of had its origin in Genesis chapter 3, verse 5, with the deception of the woman and the disobedience of man. So that secret knowledge, which we have now termed a coin called occult, yes, whatever it may be, do you understand, is not from God. That secret knowledge is what the devil reveals. There can be half-truths, but they're mainly lies. The purpose of which is to lead you astray. Do you understand? Whereas the revelation from God is used to build His church. His church are the called out ones. So if you seek to empower yourself, you will seek revelation. And when you seek that revelation that is not rightfully yours, guess where that revelation is going to come from? Not from God. Remember, godliness with contentment is great gain, yes? Are you content with the revelation, or do you want more and more and more? And more and more and more of that will cause your ears to itch. That is why in the last days, people will have what? Itching ears. And they'll go after heaping up teachers who teach them revelation after revelation. What that does is good. Revelation is good. I'm not saying that, but it has to be from God. But primarily, it has to change you. If it doesn't change you, what good is it? If it just builds up knowledge and you puff up because of that, it doesn't do anybody any good. Are you feeling cold? If you want, you can change it. No? Okay. Now, knowledge puffs up. Do you understand? There is an increase of knowledge in the last days. So, one person who was a Freemason said, all the pastors run away from me. Because all the pastors are afraid of the Freemasons. I said, I'm not going to run away from you. So I just sat and talked with him, and he was talking about for those of you who may not know, I almost became a Freemason. I didn't become a Freemason. I was not a Freemason. Though many people think I'm a Freemason, I'm not. Do you understand? So, a lot of people think that it's not a bad thing to be a Freemason. I was part of the Rotary Club, yes. Yeah, I was a Rotarian. So, I had RTN before my name, before I became a pastor. So, because of that and many other things, people think I'm a Freemason. Do you understand? So, I only joined the Rotary Club to enable me to establish a network of contacts, whichever country I went to. Meaning, when I went to Nepal, the second day I was there, I was in touch with the King's Palace because of the Rotary Club. Do you understand? And I was sitting next to the guy who meets the king. Do you understand? Why? Because I had to sell something, and this helped me do that. But never did I worship the devil. Do you understand? Yeah? So, I'm not talking about third degree and whatnot. Yeah, all that you can study on your own if God leads you to that. But what I'm trying to say is that Freemasonry, for example, is like when you join, it tells first thing they tell you is we're going to tell you a secret and you're not going to tell anybody about that secret. If you hear that, even from a pastor, run away. Do you understand? Because that is not how the church works. It doesn't work on that. Not that God doesn't have things that is hidden from you. Do you understand? But you are meant to seek them out. So when I sat across him, I said, what about the ritual where you have a coffin, you lie in the coffin and part of the initiation, or the coffin you see death and burial and this and that. And he explained all that. And what about the cross of Christ? You preach in many churches also, yes. What about the cross of Christ? Isn't that death and burial of Christ? You didn't have anything to say. Then I said, I drive demons out in Jesus' name. Oh, we don't do that. I said, that's simple, because you are a demon. I haven't seen him after that. Do you understand? He's promised me a lot of things, but I haven't seen him after that. Every time I show up in that town, he disappears. Why? I do not know. Do you understand? We are good friends. I want to get him saved. Yes, but what I'm trying to say is that there's a deception that flows even in the church. It isn't even disguised as a revelation, but it started in Genesis 5. If somebody were to tell you they belong to the Illuminati, all the conspiracy theorists will say, oh, you are of the devil. But behind the pulpit, there are people who are not speaking of God, from God. The revelation that is not from God. Do you understand? There is a doctrine that divides, and that is our inheritance. Because what does John 14:6 say? What does John 14:6 say? Wow, this is hot. Jesus said to him, yes.
I am the way, the truth, and the life.
Yes.
No one comes to the Father except through me.
Yes. The exclusivity of Christ. Do you understand? No one comes to the Father except through me. That means nothing in the Old Testament and the New Testament or any other religion is valid except for Jesus Christ. So what Solomon saved, he was as saved as David was. Do you understand? Through Christ. If he accepts Christ, Do you understand? Even Adam being saved is through Christ. Because no one comes to the Father except through Him. Do you understand? Now, I've already taught you about arguments. You can argue till the cows come home. What about the people who haven't heard about Christ and whatnot? Yes, you read Romans 1. And also, I gave the scriptures today. Well, if you haven't heard of Christ, you'll be judged for the right that you know of. But what matters eventually is that your name is in the book of life. What does that belong to? Christ. Is your name on the book of life? Then you spend eternity with those whose names are in the book of life. The rules that He has made. That's why the Great Commission says, "What? Teach others to follow what I've taught them." Do you understand? It's not talking about legalism. Do you understand? It's not talking about the archaic laws of whatever. Yeah? Do you understand? But what I'm trying to say is that somebody told me they know the secrets of the universe. I said, that's wonderful. I wish I knew that. How did you get it? I asked that. While I was meditating. Came through the ground and it crawled my spine, and suddenly I knew. That's good. Do you want me to cast that knowledge out of you? Then I said, what? Dude, trust me, it's not from God. God doesn't have to work that way. Do you understand? Any revelation, that internet is full of those revelations. And people who want to proclaim that revelation to what they're not meant to proclaim it to make themselves great. Oh, he has that revelation. I'm not discounting that there are prophets who operate in the prophetic realm still. They use television as a medium. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is that most of the people that you find in the television are there to build their own ministry. Do you understand? Don't be one of them. If God has called you, He'll provide for you. You don't have to put out your hat or beg other people to send in money. If God has told you that, He'll tell you. Do you understand? Like the Lord has told me specifically, He said, go make this person and ask him for money. I said, okay. I'll go tell him. I don't go and argue with God saying, what if He doesn't give me that's His problem. God told me to ask, and I'll ask. Do you understand? That's irrelevant of what that human thinks and what God has prepared in His heart. Because before God spoke to Moses, He knew that Pharaoh's heart would be hardened. So God knows each person's heart. And God knows what the response will be. So when one door is closed, He says no worries. If suppose, then another door will be open. I'm not worried either way. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. So that's why I want to make sure that in the last days, you are not deceived. I don't think you will be disobedient. If you know that this is a deception, do you understand? I don't think you will follow it. And if I see that, I'll kick you out. Do you understand? You're not part of that. Do you understand? Because the Word of God is primary. I'm not saying we all have the interpretation correctly. We are going from strength to strength, from faith to faith, from glory to glory. Yeah. Do you understand? Yeah. For example, your cousin. So she was sitting in front of me. Lakshmi. she had a headscarf on. I said, do you wear your helmet when you're not riding your motorcycle inside your house when you're cooking? She said no. Then why do you have your headscarf on? It was like a revelation, yeah? I mean, there's a purpose for it in the Bible. It's not that I want you to wear head covering or whatnot. It's what the Word of God says. And Paul says what? The apostle says it's because of the angels. We don't have full revelation of what that means, but we have an understanding of what he says. And we follow that. Do you understand? That's what I'm trying to say to you. See, we all are in stages of that understanding. But there is no excuse for us not knowing the Word of God. Oh, I did not know that was in the Bible. Do you understand? There are a lot of people who are criticizing even the translations now. They will stick to only King James Version, or they will stick to another version. Do you understand? Now, some of the original scripts have been proved false. For example, if you go to Mark, the last chapter, I do not know in your Bible, but in some Bibles, it says in the foot script that this is not there in some documents. Mark, I think 16 onwards, if I'm right. Let me just get there. Go to Mark. Matthew, Mark, 16. Okay. Let me go to a version that. Okay, if you, for example, I have the New International Version. I loaded in my book. You all have the NKJV, yes? If you go to verse 8 in Mark 16, I'm reading from the NIV, so it will be different. It says, trembling and bewildered, the women went out and fled from the tomb. They said nothing to anyone because they were afraid. Yes? Now, it says here, the earliest manuscripts and some ancient witnesses do not have verses 9 to 20. Do you understand? But it lists those out because because that needs to be there. In some Bibles, there is a footnote. Do you understand? But these earliest manuscripts and ancient witnesses have been proved false. Doesn't matter. You can argue till the cows come home. Do you understand? Because when you do your research into all of this and you find out what they meant by this, who is the author behind this, what is behind this, you find that it is false. I'm not going to go into that because this will take you at least 4 months to understand, 4 to 6 months to understand. Do you understand? But you can do your own research. So people who say that that this stops in verse 8, and it say that the word afraid. What does it say in yours? Verse 8?
So they went out quickly and fled from the tomb.
Yes.
For they were trembled and were amazed. And they said nothing to anyone, for they were afraid.
Yes. So what they say is the word afraid is translated wrong. In fact, the whole idea is that they were amazed or they were awestruck. And that is the ending of that gospel. But nowhere does it talk about the resurrection of Jesus, because all that is like on verse 14 it says later Jesus appeared to the 11. Yes, do you understand? So but who tells them? In verse 6 the angels tell them. Yes, so the whole resurrection is not there. So believe me, you can do research, but whatever the earlier manuscripts and are the ancient witnesses there are, they don't hold water. They are not true. Do you understand? You must understand the reason I used King James Version is because not because it doesn't have errors, but because all of its errors are understood. New King James Version technically is not the King James Version. It's a different version, yes? Because a lot of words are changed, and do you understand? That's why I use a simplified King James Version, easy read, which is the King James Version, but doesn't have thousand though and all that, yeah? Do you understand? But I'm finding it difficult to find a digital copy of that, which is why I'm making my own Bible. But that's another story. I started this 10 years ago. Do you understand? Yeah. So I mean, I left it after I think I finished Genesis. I just left it. Yeah. So anyway, so this deception in the church is also known as Gnosticism. Do you understand? I'm not explaining what that. It can come in different forms. See, was Christ divine or was he human when he appeared as flesh? He was both. He was God appearing as man. Doesn't change who he was. Do you understand? He just doesn't use his divinity, but he uses what you and I have access to, which is the Holy Spirit. Do you understand? What Gnosis said was he was fully human. There was nothing divine about it. Do you understand? So you can find 1,000 excuses. If you look at John's baptism, what was John's baptism for? Technically, it was for the remissions of what? Sins, yes? People confess their sins, and so does John's baptism absolve you from all sins? Then, if that's the case, then Jesus wasted his time on the cross. So, was Jesus then full of sin before he got baptized? See, you can argue till the cows come home. See, all that is answered. He was born sinless. He was God who became man. And he took upon himself, our sins and gave us his righteousness. Do you understand? Do you understand? Yes? So, Jesus didn't say to John, do this so that the righteousness may be fulfilled for no reason. There's a reason behind everything. It all matters on how deep you get. Now, that layer by layer by layer by layer is also taught in the occult. That's why they operate by science. Somebody asked me, they had a question that 5-pointed star, why is it considered a symbol of the devil? I explained to him that it's a pentagram, yeah, but God is the originator of that thing. So then this is a sign of the devil. But to me, it's a sign of rock and roll. But I know preachers who point it like this also. So have they sold their souls to the devil? Or is it just human quirk? There are times when I fix my glasses and I find myself doing this. Does that mean I have sold my soul to the devil? No. The devil comes here, I'll make sure he runs away from this country. Do you understand? I'm not afraid of him. Do you understand what I mean? Yeah? I'm saying this because I had an encounter with him while I was in the ICU. And all I could say to him was, I knew Jesus. Because I knew I had no power to beat him or what. All I knew that it's not that I was a pastor or a preacher or evangelist or tele-evangelist. I just knew Jesus. And you cannot touch me. That song, no? No. Can't touch us. You understand? Yeah? So, be aware of those deceptions. When you read your Bible even the versions, like, for example, one of the things that I think the New Age and the occult and they all say is that as it is above, so it will be beneath. This is the root of astrology, because above can mean the stars. So your future will be based on the stars. Now, what did Jesus teach you? You will be done in heaven. Yes, you'll be done on earth as it is in heaven. Yes. So in one translation, the word for heaven is above, and word for earth is beneath. So is that translator following the occult? I do not know. Let the Lord guide me to that. Do you understand? If you read, for example, the message and the prayer that Jesus taught, says as above, so beneath, or something like that. I haven't. Let's go to Matthew. Or where's the Lord's prayer? Huh? I know it's in the New Testament. Yes.
Chapter 5.
Okay. Is it on 5 or is it on 6?
6.
Okay. Let me go to if I have the message version. I thought download. The message. Yes. Okay. Did you find that? What is it? Oh, set the world right, do the best of it. What does verse 10 say?
Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven.
The message says, set the world right, do what's best, as above, so below. So this word as above, so below is used by the occult. So the translator of the message is Eugene Patterson. As far as I know, he's not of the devil. Do you understand? I don't think this translation meant what people can ascribe to it. Does that make sense? Yes? Yes, as above, so below is a demonic term. But do you understand? I don't think this means that. But I could be wrong. But I don't use this message translation as much as I use the King James version, or for me to understand better, I use the New King James version or whatever. Yeah, do you understand? I use multiple versions. But do you understand? There's anything that you can argue upon, even points that divide even believers in Christ. I'm not talking about when the tribulation happens. I'm talking even about the cross of Christ. What is salvation? What is that? How does to understand? But you're not meant for. See, that's where you must have the simplicity that is in Christ. The only way that can happen is if you keep Christ real. In Psalm 51 verse 6 it says what? Psalm 51 verse 6. Psalm 51 verse 6.
Behold, you desire truth in the inner parts,
Yes.
and in the hidden part you will make me to know wisdom.
Behold, you desire what? Truth
Truth.
in the inner parts. Yes. In the inward being, you should have truth, and that will lead you to wisdom. So if a question that you want to ask is stupid in your eyes, you will remain stupid. Not that you're stupid. Do you understand? So that is why I want you to ask whatever questions you have. Clear up all the doubts. People are not real with the religion or spirituality, whatever they call it these days, yeah? But they are not real with Christ. Christ is a real person. Do you understand? For example, if someone told you that they saw me with a kaja bidi wearing a lungi, you will know that is not me, yes? Because first of all, I don't wear a lungi. Second, I don't smoke kaja bidi, yes? You know that is not the character, yes? Do you understand? Do you know Jesus that way? When you get raptured, you're not going to get raptured to a book. You're going to get raptured by a person. What is that? All that we will study. Because the Lord has prepared me or has taught me to talk about His coming and prepare a people who are ready and looking and awaiting His return. Do you understand? Don't be deceived. It's not about you. You can be the biggest rascal, but God knows how to perfect that which concerns all of us. Do you understand? I was talking to a friend of mine just the other day. I mean, he and I have been friends since early 80s. So we both went hunting, and I got nothing to shoot. Finally, I found something, and I was using his rifle, which could have easily shot that. But what I found was somebody else's tractor. It was quite far off. He pointed the gun up and said, "Don't shoot that. Don't shoot that tractor." I said, "Why?" I couldn't understand. Because there's a bullet that'll hit that tractor. And probably you won't kill that guy because you're going to shoot that. You were shooting at the time. He's going to shoot back, yes? When he shoots back, that is a bullet flying at us. Yeah? So we want to avoid that. I said, that makes sense. So I shot a bird instead. A bird is in there looking at me like this. What? You're going to shoot me? I said, yes. I shot it with a gun that I could have used a BB gun to shoot that bird. Was maybe where the air conditioner was. Yeah. You understand? But I mean, I was a different person. But God knows how to perfect that which concerns. Then I got myself another gun that's less powerful. And I was shooting this. I mean, at one, he said, so his older brother came out and said, do you know what lies across the range? I mean, where I'm shooting? He said, no. Old people and their home. So you shooting and the bullet will fall in the old people in their roof. So I shot someone. I didn't tell him that I fired 10 shots already, yeah? Do you understand? Then I had 3 guns all loaded up like this, and I was ready to, just, like Rambo. And guess what? Pulls in front of me, a police car. He looks at me, he smiles. From his look, he could understand that I didn't know an ABC about guns, yeah? So he looked at me, he smiles, and he goes away. And like, he drives off. I was like, okay. So I'm glad I didn't get shot, yeah? Do you understand? But this is your pastor, yeah? This is what God had to deal with. Do you understand? And God is, if He's going to teach me the word, He's going to do that honestly. That's what I was with Him. I was honest with Him. See, whatever questions I had, I checked. And even now I have some questions, but I check with them. That's why it's important for you to ask questions and have your faith be real. So towards that end, I'm going to read with you the whole Bible starting, I think, September 16th. Yeah, so you get 1 day off. So like the first week, you read and you'll write down the questions and you'll ask those questions when you meet me. Do you understand? Whatever it is. You read the Bible for 6 days and you'll ask those questions. Whatever questions you clear it up. One question will lead to the other. What I found out with the kids especially is that when I ask them, do you have any questions? They all say no. But when they get warmed with, I said, why do you have your hand raised? I have a question. I said, okay. So I'll answer that question, then another question, then it goes on like that. And I have to stop them from asking those questions. Why? Because otherwise the whole day could be spent answering a million questions. It's not that we don't have questions, it's just that we don't know what they are sometimes, or we don't want to ask them. Do you understand? But here, I'm letting you ask the question. I'm not saying I know the answers, but I know God who knows all the answers. He will tell me. Suppose I don't have the answers right away, I'll meditate on it and I'll give you the best answer. I'll tell you to do your own research based on that answer. Do you understand? Sometimes it may not even affect our salvation. Do you understand? Or the salvation of for the other person. But it is important that we know of these things. Do you understand? So that's what I can teach you the word, and the word can be enlightening to your soul. That's all good stuff. Yeah, I'm not saying that I am not going to do that. But it is more important that your faith is real and it's real to you. Do you understand? I remember you asking me if God was real. Remember if heaven and hell was real and all that? Well, that too in a car, yeah, he was driving. Do you understand? But what I'm saying is that ask these questions. Don't harbor doubts. Don't think you're going to put me in trouble by asking a difficult question. No. Do you understand? I don't have to prove anything to you. Neither does God. But He'll answer your question. Do you understand? Because for the longest time, I had a doubt on UFOs. I mean, that's been answered. Because I knew what I saw. I said to God, what is it that I saw? Then he started answering me through scriptures. What I saw. Does that answer completely? I still don't understand certain aspect of that technology. I don't understand that. Do you understand? I know that, for example, in our physics, when we study, there are laws that apply. If you accelerate, there is a force that holds you back. The law of inertia works, acceleration, but all the laws of physics don't seem to apply to these things. They are able to make 90-degree angle turns going faster than what you can even think of. If I were to do that, I would die. Oh, I'll be plastered to the wall, yes? Do you understand? That's what physics tells me. So, this is not a physical object, but I can see it. That means it's crossed the boundary somehow. Do you understand? So, if it's crossed the boundary and it's in my realm, I have complete authority over it. That's another thing. Yeah? Do you understand? But we're getting into things that. Do you understand that? If the Lord leads, we will study more. Yeah? But these are things that are going to deceive people. It's not going to be a singular deception. It's going to be multifaceted. If people say they are Thor or some other god, last thing we need is another god, yes? Do you understand? Or if some say that if something appears and says it's Indra or Shiva, or you say what nonsense. But if it's an alien, a brother from another mother, you're willing to receive that. Do you understand? But there's already a doctrine of salvation for them, and if they need, then that doctrine became like if they're not aliens, then they don't need to be saved. Therefore, we should listen to them. Do you understand? If you like Avengers movie, I don't know which one. The last one, what was that called? The Endgame, and before that, what that was called? Infinity War. I don't know which one. The Star-Lord has Spider-Man as a hostage. Star-Lord is from Earth, but he was kidnapped. So Sherlock Holmes, who acted as Sherlock Holmes.
Doctor Strange.
Doctor Strange. Yeah. He asks, which master do you serve? And there's Iron Man standing there. And Star-Lord's like, what am I supposed to say now? Jesus? Do you understand? And Iron Man's like, you're from Earth? Yeah, I'm from Missouri or something, yeah? He says that. So then that goes into that doctrine, because Jesus then applies only to humans from Earth. So if you're not from Earth, then does Jesus apply to you? Do you understand? But the Bible says all creation is made through Jesus. Do you understand? The rest are figment of our imaginations. So for example, someone asked me, what are zombies real? Zombies, yeah. I said, what is described as zombies in Hollywood is not real. It's a figment of somebody's imagination. God gives life. Do you understand? Yeah, God gives life. But are there people, technically you and I are walking dead, yes? We are dead, we just don't know it, yes? Everybody's in the stage of dying, yes? If you die without Christ, that's kalas. Yeah? But if you're born again, you have hope. You don't die, you sleep. Do you understand? So you can go anyway which way you want, yeah? With that argument. Do you understand? So are there people who appear to be zombies, that they're demonically manifested and possessed? Yeah, there can be. Do you understand? So, whatever questions that you have, ask them. Whatever you think is illuminating you, it has to be from the Word of God. There has to be a Word of God to support that. If not, it is not of God. Do you understand? Because in Genesis 3:5 it says, you will be like God. They were already like God. Do you understand? The serpent was jealous, but he was also cunning. And he deceived Eve. Do you understand? He didn't deceive Adam for whatever reason. Do you understand? So, now, I've spoken for almost an hour. Now I'll let you ask questions. Whatever questions you have, ask them right now. Yeah. If you don't know what to ask, if you have any questions, write them down, and next week ask them. And when we start the Bible things, Bible reading, ask on what the portions you have read. Does that make sense? Yes? That way, throughout the year, you'll spend asking questions. Do you understand? And how our collective knowledge will increase. Now, your questions may not be the same as the ladies' questions. That's why I'm reporting this. Do you understand? So, whatever questions that you have, let Hebrews endow the Bible study we have for the next year be a time of question and answers. Whatever questions, you will find God answering them, and your relationship with God should grow. See, a lot of people are fooled into thinking that their name is in the book of life, when actually they are not saved. Don't be one of those people. Don't be one of those people. Do you understand? God is not going to deceive you if you want to be His, and you understand He's going to make sure the truth gets to you. And that's how He got to me, yeah? Because in search of God, I went all the places, all the religions, and finally found me. Do you understand? It is He who gave me that revelation. That's why I say He found me. Do you understand? Yeah. So, do you have any questions? Yeah. Go on.
First one is John 15:18.
John 15:18. Let's go to it. Yeah. What's the question?
It says the world hates you more than it hated me before it hated you. So what is Jesus really trying to convey?
Well, in John 15:18 it says, the world hates you. You know that He hated me before it hated you. Yes? Jesus is trying to convey just that. Meaning, the world is going a certain way. You're going, if you're with Jesus, He was going against the grain. How Jesus was crucified? The world is sold to sin. In the world you'll have troubles. In Matthew chapter 6, what's the last verse?
Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow,
Yes,
for tomorrow will worry about its own things.
yes,
Sufficient for the day is its own trouble.
yes. Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow will worry about its own things. So, but Jesus just said, don't worry. Do you understand? That means the world will be full of worries, but not God. He's not worried about anything. He knows the beginning from the end. But the world hated what God has. The revelation that God is, who God is. Do you understand? And that's why if the world hates you, understand that before the world hates you, and because the reason the world hates you is that you have sold yourself to do what is right, righteousness, which is of Christ. So the world hates him. He died on the cross. The world crucified him. If the rulers of the world knew what they were doing, they wouldn't have done it. Do you understand? Does that answer your question? Yes? That is what it means. So if you go to somebody who's sold to the world and talk to them about Jesus, they'll say, no, I enjoy my sin. Sin is actually enjoyable to the flesh. But Jesus is asking you to crucify. Crucifixion is not a pleasurable deal. That's why you need the Holy Spirit to do what He does inside of you. That process is called sanctification. Understand, the world will hate you. Do you understand? See, YouTube is coming with a new algorithm where if you up to 1,000 followers, it'll show you the exact number of followers. From 1,000 to 10,000, it'll show you only increments of hundreds. So if you have more than 100 followers, it'll show you 1,100 plus, something like that. So 10,000 to a million, it'll show you only 1,000 if 1,000 people increase. What am I trying to say here? See, YouTube is free to make its own algorithm. But what I'm trying to say is that, see, a lot of Christian material is being banned by YouTube, by Facebook. Do you understand? As hate speech and what beyond, yeah? We don't know. I do not know how long I will be on YouTube. But I don't care. Do you understand? Maybe they're letting me go because I don't have many followers or I don't influence many people that way. But those people who have 3 million, 4 million, 5 million, 6 million followers, do you understand? They have to be very careful of what they say. They have to abide by YouTube's rules, or they'll get banned or demonetized or whatever. Yeah. Once YouTube asked me, "Do I want money for these things that I preach?" I said no. Then he asked me, "Who are you preaching to?" I said, "To myself. It makes me happy." And they didn't ask me anything. Do you understand? Because I knew exactly what they were asking. I mean, they got in touch with me and they said, because first thing was, would you like to increase your audience? So I said no. I mean, that was a channel call. Then they got in touch with me. Do you understand? So who are you preaching to? What are you doing? And that means what they've already gone through what I've uploaded. Yeah? Do you understand? So somebody who was Christian appeared and said that because of this they're promoting the Christian agenda. So I went to their site and I found out that you have to pay monthly. I said, if it comes to that, I'll pay. Do you understand? If God leads me to that. But for now, it's free. And there's a purpose behind me doing everything. Do you understand? It's not for the world, it's for you. Do you understand? Now, if it is used as an evangelical tool, that's great. But do you understand? But that this is why the world hates you. because you're doing something it does not like, and you are following Jesus Christ, who the world did not like. And guess what? The world is going to get judged by him. He's coming soon. He's returning soon. Yes. Do you understand? Yes. Yes. What's?
Two questions.
Huh.
1 minute. I noticed where I'm at home, but I don't have exactly the reference.
Go on.
When Jesus was speaking, I believe, to the Sadducees,
Huh.
he told them that you don't know the thing of heaven, that in heaven we won't be given in marriage, we'll be like
Yeah.
angels.
Yeah.
So I have this question, like, here on earth, we have family, meaning wife, kids. So when we reach in heaven, and for example, I'll see unction. So we are not married, so when we reach there, what we are.
Okay. Okay, I understand.
And can I, my second question?
No, we'll find out the scriptures. Yeah. I think it's in. What is? That's another thing. Go to Matthew. Is it in Matthew? Let me just see. Matthew 22. Matthew 22. When the Sadducees ask about the resurrection, yes? That's in Matthew 22. So it talks about what teacher Moses said that if a man dies having no children, yeah, is that the question? Yes.
Yes.
7 brothers and all of them died. Yes.
Yes, Pastor.
Yes.
Pastor.
So verse 31, for in the resurrection they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are like the angels of God in heaven. Yes?
Yes, Pastor.
Now, here's the thing. God is what? Spirit. You are what? Human. Yes. But you have a spirit. Yes? Born again spirit. You become one flesh with your spouse. Yes? You become one in spirit. Yes? So, the first answer is yes, you will know, and you will still be married in heaven because you are one spirit. The marriage is dissolved only on earth. Do you understand? Yes? So, we don't understand the fullness of it, because if then one person dies and the person marries another person, then becomes one with that. Then how can two become one or one become two? Do you understand? We don't understand that fully, because what is 1 plus 1 plus 1? But so do you worship 3 gods or do you worship 1 God? Huh? But 1 plus 1, the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, it makes 3 gods. Huh? What is infinity plus infinity plus infinity? Infinity, yes. God is infinity. So we are not capable of understanding that. Do you understand? So, but yes, you will be married, or you will know who you are married to on earth, and because your children will be your children. But when you think about that, no. I have Samuel, Daniel, and Joel. Now, they are spirit, soul, and body, yeah? Just because I was born in 68 and Samuel was born in 2001, does that make me older in spiritual language? That's just what we need to think about also. Do you understand? So is he technically my son or my brother? In this, when I look at in the spirit, do you understand? So when I treat each and every one of you, I treat you like you are what you are. That is a spirit. And in the spirit, whether you are Charles or whether you're Mikhail, I just teach you according to what you can get in your ears, your gray cells can understand. That wisdom God gives me. Do you understand? Sometimes I may answer one way to you, but I will, and you, someone who's 6 years old, will have the same question. I may answer some other way, but the way that is answered is from God, and is by God, with the capacity, with the answer for, with the person who's hearing it having that capacity to understand that. Does that make that makes sense? Yeah, do you understand? Meaning the answer will be this biblical, but it may be different in depth. Yes, so we will know our spouses, we will know our relatives, believe it or not. That is one thing that God wants us all to focus on, our relatives. Do you understand? That they are saved. Do you understand? Even among the disciples, John and James were brothers, yes? Do you understand? Thomas was his twin. Didymus, yes? Who was his twin? Well, was he one of the disciples? We're not told anything that, but we just understand from that, yeah? Some say that and whatnot. But does that answer your question? First part of your question, yes? So, yes, you will know who Anshu is if she's saved and you're both saved, yes? But in hell, you won't know anybody. You'll be isolated. Or in the lake of fire, yeah? Do you understand? It doesn't matter how big or famous you are on earth. Do you understand, yeah? Okay, what's the next question?
It's related to heaven again. I couldn't find it in it's in Revelation, where you have an angel, the angel who are before God, saying, "Holy, holy, Lord the Holy." So my question is, okay, if we reach heaven, here on earth we walk, we have what to do, but in heaven God is there. What will we do?
Okay, what did Adam and Eve do? What was their first thing that they had to do? We go to Genesis chapter 1. Verse 22. God blessed them. Genesis chapter 1, verse 22. God blessed them, saying, "Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters in the seas, let the birds multiply on the earth." Yes? So evening and morning was the fifth day. Yes? So, do you understand? Yes? Now, verse 26 says what? And God said, "Let us make man in our image, in our likeness. Let them have what? Dominion over the fish of the sea." So, over all that God has created, God has created man to have dominion over him. Yes? Well, what does verse 28 say? Then God blessed them, and God said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply. Fill the earth." Yes? That is the same command. Yes? But he adds something to that. And subdue it. Yes? So, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, or every living creature that moves. See, in other words, God created man to do work. And we'll have work in the millennium, We shall rule with Christ. Rule involves work. Nowhere do you become a couch potato. Do you understand? Meaning you just don't watch TV for all of eternity, yeah? Eating Lay's chips or whatever, yeah? Switching channels, yeah? Do you understand what I mean, yeah? Yeah? So what is the work in the millennium? We are told. What is the work in the next age? We do not know for sure, but definitely we are called to work. Do you understand? Yeah. The angels declare the Lordship as holy and holy, holy. In Isaiah 6 says, because whenever they see God, He is holy. Do you understand? So that'll come out of you also. Do you understand? But does that answer your question? Yes? So you have work, and the whole of eternity will not be a time of wastage. Do you understand? Yeah. You will have work to do. You won't be sitting there playing harp in a cloud, something, yeah? Some people think heaven is like that, yeah? Yeah.
We talk like that.
Yeah, exactly. That's not what the word says. But doesn't mean that there won't be clouds and there won't be harps, yeah? There'll be guitars, and there'll be pizza also, yes? Hallelujah. Yeah? Any other question?
Now this is like what you just read
Oh.
on Genesis.
Oh.
In 22, God,
Which chapter?
Genesis 1.
Oh.
When you read that, I just had that not long back.
Oh.
It is God makes man, right, in 22,
26. Genesis 1:26.
26.
Yes.
Then after that, in the second,
Okay, Genesis chapter 2 says, thus the heavens and the earth and the hosts of them were finished. So it repeats the same thing. See, so did God have another creation? No. See, first of all, chapters and verses were put by human beings. Do you understand? Huh? So, when God said this, remember, prophecy is not only cyclical, it is forward pointing. Yeah, so it's repetitive, and all of this is that in that nature. So it's repeating what was already in chapter 1, but in a different form. Because we are reading it in English and we are not reading it as a song per se, do you understand? We don't understand it fully. But it's not speaking about God having the first creation and the second creation. Do you understand? Because if that is the case, if you read Genesis, yeah,
that is 2:7.
yeah, no. When you go beyond that, we go to verse 23 on chapter 2. Adam said, this is now the bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman because she was taken out of a man. Now, there are people who interpret this as Eve being the second woman. The first woman decided not to be subject to Adam. This is wrong, yeah? And she is the mother of all the things we call demonic. Yeah, whatever. in Malayalam we call her Yakshi, whatever. Yeah, do you understand? Yeah, but this is no. She's in known as Lilith. Do you understand? This is all wrong doctrine. Yeah. Do you understand? So all this stems from the fact that one, you doubt God and you doubt what He said. Do you understand? Don't have any doubts. Clear it up one by one. Do you understand? You can even doubt what I said, yeah, but check so that you get a conviction. Do you understand? Because Scripture will prove itself. And throughout the New Testament, does it talk about two creations or one creation? God made man once. Yeah? But there will be a second heaven and earth in Revelation, when the old heaven and the old earth will pass away. Do you understand? Yeah? Does that answer your question? Isaac, do you have any questions? Yes, Abraham.
I don't know how to put this, but when we die,
Oh,
our soul is reserved for judgment.
yes.
So when Lazarus died and Jesus prayed and he brought him back, how did Jesus revert back that?
Okay. First of all, we'll go to Genesis chapter 1. I'm trying to get the right verse. Okay, Genesis chapter 2. Verse 7, what does it say? And the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostril and the breath of life, and man became a living what? Being. In the King James it says living soul. So your soul is formed when the spirit which contains life, which is from God, comes into contact with what? The body, yes? So your spirit, soul, and body. Do you understand? So your soul and your spirit are entwined together. Yes? And they're separated at death from your body. So what was in the cave in case of Lazarus? His body. But in his spirit and his soul were somewhere else, yes? Do you understand? So obviously Lazarus was in a place where Jesus could call him back. Because if you look at the beggar and the rich man, do you understand that there was a difference, yes? So Jesus had access just like you did. You do through the Spirit. Because before he did that, he groaned to himself. Read the Bible, yeah? Do you understand? And then he called out Lazarus. So he called the spirit which is entwined with the soul back to the body. And he raised the dead. Raising the dead for God is no bigger deal than healing a headache. Do you understand? The only thing is you don't hear about it in the daily newspaper. Do you understand? If you just go down the road from here, where there's a lot of bars, what is that place called on the way to Fort Christian? Matangeri, you know. After Matangeri, you have the bridge, and then cross the bridge. Whatever, yeah. There, the police in that locality had a problem. A man was dead. Everything pointed to a pastor. So they went to this pastor and said, "This man is dead, you are being arrested for the death of this man." The pastor said, "Okay, show me the dead man." So they went to the morgue, showed the dead man. The pastor called the dead man back to life. There was no case after that. Do you understand? Then who's dead now? The police could tell blah 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 blah. And the pastor went home and he slept peacefully. But you will not find that in the Malayalam Manorama or Mathrumi or Deshabhimani or whatever Abhimani you have. Do you understand? So, raising the dead is no big deal. You just need to know what you're doing. In the scripture, Peter puts out people who had unbelief. So we believe that he put out those. But I think it has to do with the people who wanted her to be alive. I'm talking about Tabitha. Some people just wanted a show. Everybody wants to see the dead being raised. Do you understand? I think, yes, unbelief is, you have to understand what unbelief is. So why Jesus could not perform or did not perform the miracles. He did not want to, not that he could not. Do you understand? If that's the case, the whole world is full of unbelief. Do you understand? So, but does that answer your question? Yes?
That's when I had this in normal church, in our traditional churches. In Malayalam we say Jesus died for Rogam, Shabam.
That is Rogam is Jesus, Shabam is sin, Pavam
Shabam is
curse, yes, and Pavam is sin. Okay.
So, as when we become a believer, yes, curse has been taken care of, sin has been taken care of. But sickness, when I read this 2 Peter, there is, I see also that it is 2 Peter 2:24. He himself bore our sins in his own body on the tree, that we have died to sins, might live righteous, by whose stripes you were healed. But when we read 22 onwards, who committed no sin?
Wait, 2 Peter what?
2:22 onwards.
2 Peter 2:22.
2 Peter 2:22. 1 Peter 2:22.
Ah.
Sorry, 1 Peter.
That's what I was wondering.
1 Peter, who committed no sin, nor was deceit found in his mouth.
Yes.
Who, when he was reviled, did not revile in return. When he suffered, he did not threaten, but committed himself to him who judges righteously, who himself bore our sins in his own body on the tree, that we have died to sins, might live righteous, by whose stripes. Here, is it really meaning our physical healing, or our the sin part, or our spiritual healing?
Okay. First of all, the church which teaches that your curses are automatically gone is wrong. Your sin is gone. It's as if you're not sin. But you have to, suppose there's a curse, you have to break those curses. Do you understand? If you're walking in them, sometimes God will remove those curses. But sometimes that's why you have the daily declaration of faith. Do you understand? That's why you have the promises in the Bible. Do you understand?
So that is what my doubt also.
No, I'll answer. So the curses have to be removed with knowledge. A curse without a cause does not sit. Do you understand? Because if you look at the nominal church, they don't expect you to even read the Bible. They expect the priest to tell you what's in the Bible. That doesn't give you knowledge. Do you understand? So you understand, like for example, in Deuteronomy 28, 1 to 14, who if you follow God, you will have a blessing. But after 14, if you don't follow God, all the curses. So I ask people, are you under those curses? Do you understand? So if that's the case, you follow God. My people perish because of lack of knowledge. Do you understand? That's what God said. So that's why you should know the word of God, not have someone. It's your responsibility, not somebody else's responsibility. Do you understand? That is one. Second, is it spiritual or natural? Yeah? Now, is by whose stripes you are healed? Are the stripes physical or natural? Are the stripes spiritual or natural?
Stripes are.
What?
Yeah, but it's to be natural.
Natural. Yes, so your healing naturally can come from God. Does it happen all the time? Not in any ministry. But Jesus can. Every time Jesus showed up, he healed them all. Except when there was unbelief. He chose not to heal them, yes? Does that happen?
Again,
Wait. It comes back to what you know. See, if you follow the world, you will not know the miraculous. There are people who have lost count of the dead that are being raised. So much so that they're not afraid of someone dying. Do you understand? In South America, especially, people die of plagues and other people kill them. It's like every day you have raised somebody from the dead. Otherwise, you can't go to sleep. Yeah, it's become normal. We don't hear about that. Do you understand? Dr. Livingstone, I believe it was in Africa, when they had the plague, the Black Death they called it, yes, where your blood cells were affected by the plague. Yeah, he said in a petri dish, so he was able to go into that area and not be affected, but heal the people of the sickness, of the plague. Yes, so people wanted to know what his secret was, what his medicine was. He said, take my blood, put it on a petri dish. You know what a petri dish is? And put that plague and see which lives. So they took his blood, put it on the petri dish, and added the plague to it, and the plague died. And they said, what is this? What's in your blood? It says, the blood of Jesus runs through my brain, or through my veins. Do you understand? So that is, you could say, is faith. Do you understand? Sometimes it's a gift that God gives, that you have that faith and nothing moves you. Do you understand? But don't spiritualize this healing. This is natural. You've experienced it. Your children have experienced that healing. Yes? I'm waiting. I have hope for that healing. Do you understand? But more than that, if you look at it spiritually, there's another scripture. But if you see not a God of hope, and if I didn't have hope and I'm caught up in what frailties I have, then I wouldn't be teaching this word. Meaning what happens to me doesn't change God. God heals. Do you understand? God heals miraculously. Do you understand? He still heals you and he still heals me. Do you understand? Without that, then that is because of the resurrection. Because sickness is not from God. Do you understand? God can pull his hand away and cause sickness to come on your body. Yes, that's different. But does God have sickness? Does God have sickness? No. Do you understand?
So,
Yeah. But does that answer one
yes.
question? Yes.
So then, why was not Paul healed of that thorn in the flesh? God said.
What is a thorn in the flesh, first of all?
Satan.
No, how do you know that? Exactly. Because if you read the scriptures properly, the thorn in the flesh, see, many people equate that thorn being his eyesight. But if you read the scriptures properly, Paul was left for the dead, yes? Meaning he almost died, or literally he died. And they discarded his body. He got up from the dead. Remember, Paul went to heaven and back, yeah? Do you understand? So, some people say it's because of his eyesight, because he sees with large letters are right, yeah? Could be also because he writes with large letters because the other person can't see also. Do you understand? Yeah, because glasses were not invented. But if you read the scriptures properly, what followed Paul wherever he went? Persecution. Do you understand? So is the thorn in the flesh a persecution from the Lord? I wrote an article about this long time ago. I don't remember. I think somebody else also did, and their article was longer. So I copied and pasted that. With credits to them, their website. I copied and pasted on. I don't know if it's in my current Facebook or the old account, but do you understand? We do not know of it for sure, but I suspect when I read the scriptures, it's got to do with persecution. Because wherever Paul went, persecution followed him. Do you understand? But he left Trophimus sick. So why didn't Paul heal that guy? I don't know. Do you understand? So these are things which we take on one by one, not make a general study and a blanket doctrine on. If you come to me with a headache and you ask me for prayer, I pray. Do you understand? But it's the Lord's job to heal you. If He doesn't heal you immediately, He'll tell me what's wrong. Sometimes He'll tell me it's because you doesn't drink enough water. Do you understand? Sometimes He might heal you in spite of that and tell you to drink enough water. But does that make me a doctor? No. Sometimes He tell you to go to a doctor. I do not know why. He told me that many times. Do you understand? But doesn't mean that you don't pray. Doesn't mean the scripture is wrong. Do you understand? You must have that confidence that by the stripes of Jesus they are healed, and He sent forth His word and healed your disease. Disease is not spiritual, it's natural. Do you understand? Yes.
So, one thing. Jesus took up on our curses and cursed is a man who hangs on the tree.
Yes.
So, do we again renounce everything curses that
if the Holy Spirit brings to our mind, yes, we renounce it.
And also,
no, we don't do a Freud with it. Yeah, we don't go back and try to figure out what our grandfather did, and no. If the Holy Spirit brings it to our life, our mind, then we renounce it. For example, there are times where I have lied, for example, and the Lord has told me to renounce it. Do you understand? I'll make sure I don't lie again. Why did I lie at that time? Because I lied to make myself look better. Whereas my value now comes from who the Lord is. At that time, it didn't happen. Do you understand? At that time, money was a value for me, among many other things. Does that make sense? Yes? Yeah. So, does that answer your questions?
Something similar to, I don't know. Same, like, will witchcraft have any effect on a believer?
Depends on whether you believe in the witchcraft or not. Because there was a story of a pastor who died while cutting down a tree. This pastor did not know the power of God. Do you understand? But you know Ram Babu, yes? No. When he got saved, he was telling the people, even I don't know whether this was in Kenya or not. He was talking about the head guy who did witchcraft in his area. Said, by this evening you'll be dead. And he threw some powder at him, at Rambabu. And Rambabu said, okay. And immediately, this guy who threw the powder dropped on the floor. He could not move. So, witchcraft has no power. According to your faith, do you understand? But witchcraft, there's no divination against Israel. Witchcraft has no power. But does not mean that witchcraft does not work. That witchcraft does not inherently have power. It has no power against Christ. Are you in Christ? Or do you just follow him by name? That makes you a nominal Christian. Do you understand? Because your great grandfather is baptized doesn't make you a Christian. Do you understand? So that's the same thing that applies even for a curse. Without a cause, you won't. Do you understand? So you find out what causes, and then you confess your sin. That's all. Do you understand? Any other question? No? Yeah. No? Okay.
It's a question, but not straight from the Bible. Concern Freemasonry.
Freemasonry, yeah.
Back home, in Ivory Coast, this has taken proportion like I would say it's going like even replacing churches. Like almost everybody is going to that. Government authority like that. Even when we're at the sometimes Christmas decoration in town, these are symbols which are more or less famous. Little that I know. But I want to ask, what could lead, I would say, an entire country
to Freemasonship?
Yeah,
Well,
that.
if you look at the aspect of that, what you're saying, it's devil worship. Like you have people who worship the devil in the next city. If you call up their church, the first thing they'll ask is, how much money are you willing to give to get your things done? Do you understand? Yeah. So it is the love of money that is the root of evil. So why do you become a Freemason? For power? For money? Yeah. What for glory? Whatever it may be. What was the deception? The tree was what? Good for? Food. And? 6 makes
6:2.
Genesis 3.
Yeah. When the woman saw that which was good for food, that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree desirable to make one wise,
Yes.
she took of his fruit.
Yes.
and
So
ate.
that's right. So why they join Freemasonship is because it has power that the church does not exhibit, because the church does not show any power these days.
So when you say power,
For example, he asked about Jesus healing. How many churches are in Cochin, for example, that practice healing? If you go to, like, for example, a Catholic church, I'm just using that, and you go up and say, I have a headache, what will the priest say? Go take an aspirin, yes? Or take a Tylenol, or whatever, yeah? Do you understand? But the churches that pray are growing. I'm not saying that. Do you understand? Because they lack the power to do what Christ did. Do you understand? So, and the other thing is that for the same reason that I joined Rotary networking. Everybody else is a Freemason, but they don't understand the cost involved in that. The other thing is that it's a secret society, so it makes you wise. Not everybody is part of it. Do you understand? If you get caught by the police, and if you're a Freemason, you know the police chef also, police chief, yeah? Maybe he's under you. Do you understand? So that power, glory, this is the same case in Cochin. Do you understand? You know, your accountant, Joe Sanathan, he was a Freemason before he got saved. He was quite high up. Yeah.
you should not be scared.
No, you should not be scared of him. No, he was. He'll tell you more about that. You talk to him about that. He'll tell you what. So, he was a Freemason, part of the lodge, you know. So, my uncle was a Freemason. So, I went with somebody to talk to him because they wanted an introduction to him. And for whatever reason, whatever he said, my uncle would not accept anything until he said he knows that his father's brother was also Freemason. He said, do you know, this man said, do you know so and so? He said, yes. He said, I am his relative. Immediately, there was a change in my uncle. Do you understand? And do you understand? He said, oh, okay, I know. Do you understand? There was a change. As soon as my uncle found out this other guy is related to a Freemason, and do you understand? It didn't matter that his own brother's son was there. Didn't matter. Do you understand? That's how strong that Freemasonry lies. Do you understand? So, does everybody who is a Freemason know that they're worshipping the devil? No. In fact, some people, even if they know, they will deny that. Do you understand? But don't worship anything but God. Yes?
Just one more small. I'm not telling Protestants, believers per se. You know, when old tradition, there were this Sandhya Prarthana, very right. People used to do it very prudently. But in the believers or in the Protestant movement, for the good or the bad. That prayer as a family or that discipline has gone. Is it for the good or it is a deteriorating of the faith, as a lesson
Okay.
of faith?
David said he prays 5 times a day. Yes, that's in the old covenant. In the new covenant, prayer is a communication with God. That you don't need a sanctuary or a place or a building. You're supposed to talk to God wherever you are. And right now, wherever you 2 or 3 are gathered in the name of Christ, He's in our midst. Yes?
Yes.
Do you understand? Yes, that's one thing. Second, the traditional prayer was meaningless because people prayed out of ritualism because they were told to pray. Muslims pray also, yes. In fact, they pray more than Christians do. They're more disciplined than the average Christian, yeah? You tell an average Christian to get up at that time, oh, I'm not a morning person. Do you understand, yeah? I went to another city, not in Kerala, and I was praying in the terrace. And the first call to prayer for the Muslims came. Apparently, no one came to the mosque. So the Imam was banging on the doors. I could see him walking around, banging on the doors, yeah? To get people to come for prayer, yeah? I'm like, is he going to bang on my door also? But he knew which door to bang on. But did you understand? So those people did not know how to pray. Now, once you learn the genuinity of that, is it wrong to pray? No, it's not. Family should pray every day. Do you understand? But you pray according to how the Lord leads you. Now, I pray, I have protection over my children, over my wife, and whatever. Yeah, as the Lord leads me. Do you understand? It should not become a ritual. Do you understand? Now, in the Old Testament, you can pray 5 times a day. How many times did Daniel pray? 3 times a day. Do you understand? So it doesn't matter, yeah. But in the New Testament, you're to always have a heart of thanksgiving, and that then follows up with the communication with God, a fellowship with God at all times. Do you understand? For example, when I told you what I told you for Hebrews, I didn't have it prepared before. I started speaking, the Lord started moving because I'm in communication with Him. Do you understand? He did not. Sometimes He gives me beforehand. I do not know why it does. Probably for my case, for my peace. Yeah. Do you understand? But yes, Christians don't pray enough. As a church, we don't pray at all. Do you understand? And we engage in activities that require prayer, but we do not pray. We do not communicate enough. Do you understand? Before each Sunday, before I give you the word, I have to pray. I have to communicate with God. Otherwise, what? Because it's spiritual. Do you understand? And I know who's received the word. For example, this Sunday yesterday, I know who's received the word and who's not received the word. Why? Because it's spiritual. Does that answer your question? So, in the olden days, you had to pray to Mother Mary and whatnot. Yeah, people did that genuinely. Does God understand that? Yeah. In the past, you were ignorant. But if you know the truth, there is only one intercessor between God and man. That is Christ Jesus. Do you understand? So, does that answer your question?